Shannon, how impressive did those Lakers look?
Where's your handy?
I got it.
Here we go. That's what I want.
I got
here we go.
You skip it to preseason. And so I don't want to get too excited. I don't want to put anything in front of us. But damn it, I'm going to get excited. Okay. I like what I saw. You like what you saw too, Skip. Somebody heaving trouble on this, Skip. Put it back down here.
Yeah, thank you.
Jenny B don't want to take that home.
Yeah, please hide that.
Jenny from Minnie be on that Henny. Oh. Skip, they look really good, Skip. You had to be impressed with what you saw. I know you liked it, Skip. Tell the truth, Skip. Go ahead and say.
My turn?
No. You can say you like. Not if you liked it.
I liked it.
Okay.
Hakuna Matata. It's spooky season here on Ball Don't Lie. That's right. We're recording Halloween night. You know what it is. We're still out here producing that content.
Hunter, that was an electric intro. I love it.
Yeah.
Every time it's something different. You gotta love it. Mixing it up. No team is left behind here on the Ball Don't Lie podcast.
That angelic voice was none other than David Green. I'm Hunter Pitcoff here. This is Ball Don't Lie, Penn State Sports Nights NBA-based podcast, weekly podcast. At this point, we've gotten that rhythm. You know what it is, Shooter's Flow. So we're going to quickly recap just some of the top headlines that have happened first. We had LeBron James. Obviously, if you've heard in the news, there's been some California fires going on, forest fires. LeBron's family actually did have to evacuate their home. But LeBron, on Taco Tuesday, delivered a taco truck to some of the first responders. That was a pretty boss move, in my opinion.
You gotta love it. Anything involving LeBron and tacos is news that I want to hear, and especially with this, he's doing a good thing helping people out who are in need, and it's crazy that him and his family actually had to drive around to look for somewhere to stay. These fires are out of control.
I hope that Marriott hotel they stayed at was elegant. And speaking of the Lakers, LeBron was giving out carnitas. Kuz got a thumbs up to return for the Lakers. He's going to be playing this Friday against the Dallas Mavs. We'll get into that game later on in the podcast. Trae Young, unfortunately, bad side of the injury list. Sort of. He tweaked his ankle, stepping on Justice Winslow's his foot during the Miami Heat Atlanta Hawks game.
It's the worst.
But his MRI comes back clean. He's listed as day-to-day with an ankle sprain. But yet again, the Hawks could struggle a bit without Trae Young.
Trae Young is going to be okay. The X-rays came back clean. He will be back. Nothing to worry about here. It's just a minor setback for a major comeback.
Oh, I love the line. Another guy who, the best shooter of all time, won't be able to shoot a basketball for quite some time is Steph Curry. He broke his hand against the Phoenix Suns. Suns also broke the Golden State Warriors' confidence as well. That's a bummer.
Yeah, Hunter, I saw the replay. That injury looked pretty nasty. Hopefully Steph Curry has a good recovery after that. The Warriors are in shambles now.
Yep, and two players that almost got into shambles, kind of did, is Joel Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns. Those two literally squared up, kind of. It was a little bit of a bear-hugging fight, if I will. We had Ben Simmons put Karl Anthony Towns in a chokehold, but he walks out with 0 suspensions. Joel Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns tacked 2 games each. It's not that many games, but both these guys are the best players of their team, so...
Yeah, it was an interesting moment. As a Sixers fan, it was crazy to see. Towns and Embiid are always going at it. Very, very competitive guys.
On and off the court.
Yeah, very competitive guys. They exchanged tweets after the game, and I honestly love it. I love the rivalry, and I love the competitiveness. I'm kind of sick. Honestly, I'm kind of sick and tired of the love fest that's always going on between opposing players. I like the animosity.
Yep, 100%. Trigger fingers turn to Twitter fingers, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
James Harden drops 59 freaking points against the Wizards, but the score of the game was 159 to 158. There was 0 defense played whatsoever in that game. Jesus.
Hunter, it's hard to believe that there was 0 defense.
No overtime.
Yeah, it's really hard to believe. I know the score was 158 to 159. Rockets win. Hard to believe there was no defense played. James Harden shot 32 free throws. What is this?
Yeah, we thought Anthony Davis's all those free throw attempts were crazy, but nope. James Harden's like, hold on 1 second, I got this. And again, the Ball Don't Lie podcast, our slogan is...
No team left behind.
Not one team gets left behind here. We cover the whole league. Everyone gets exposed, either a good way or a bad way. But first, we're going to segue into good things. Me and David each picked 3 players who we thought were the players of the week, 3 players that we thought were, really good. Me and David both compiled our list. David, do you want me to go first or?
Yeah, you got it. You go ahead and go first on this one.
All right, so I'm gonna read off. We'll just go one at a time, or?
Let's hear your three, and then I'll give you mine.
Okay, let's do that. So first player I have on my list, I think is a pretty obvious choice. I did do this before the James Harden thing, so he kind of is on that as well. But anyway, the first player I picked is Anthony Davis. He had that historic 40 points, 20 rebound game in 31 minutes. That is the quickest any player has gotten those numbers in NBA history. He's only missed one free throw in the last 3 games, and he averages 13.5 free throw attempts per game, so that's pretty impressive. And the Lakers lead the league with 8 blocks per game. Again, Anthony Davis, of course, is all over blocking shots left and right. And the most important thing is after a pretty ugly game against the Clippers, they went 3-0 following those games, being the Utah Jazz, the Charlotte Hornets, and the Memphis Grizzlies. So the Lakers, are able to come back from a hard opening night loss, and, it seems like everything's starting to work out after everyone was panicking in Tinseltown.
That's right. I have to totally agree with the Anthony Davis take. He's been absolutely sensational for the Lakers. His numbers are ridiculous, and I think he's going to keep it up all year. So Anthony Davis is a totally fair pick with that one.
No, Anthony Davis is a stud, no doubt about it. He may make this Player of the Week thing for me and David multiple times. Now, next, I have a former Laker, Brandon Ingram, slender man. He's been playing fantastic of recently. No Zion Williamson. I can't say no problem because they're 0-4, but however, he's played really well. The Pelicans are still very competitive. They just can't close out games. I feel like nobody's talking about him. He's 6th in the league in scoring right now. I know it's early, but he's 6th with 27.3 points per game. David, do you think he could be the front runner for most improved player this year?
Definitely possible, Hunter. I really like him, and it's hard to predict who could win most improved player right now. Because we're going to have a really long year, but I really think that Brandon Ingram has a chip on his shoulder, and he's looking more aggressive, and I saw him posterize. I forget who he posterized, but that was a nasty dunk he had, and he looks like he's came to play this year so far.
Yeah, Brandon Ingram's a guy who's gotten better every single time I watch him play. There's so much upside with him coming out of Duke. I knew he'd be a bit of a project, but it seems like everything's coming together for the young Dookie product right there. And my third player on my list, he is a Cole brother. That is right. Ice Trey Young himself. Again, he's hurt. However, that doesn't diminish the fact that he had an amazing week. He had 38 points, 39 points, and 25 points before going down. Also had 9 helpers in each of those games. He was able to beat the Pistons and the Orlando Magic. Barely lost to the Sixers, but it was a super entertaining game. But obviously, big picture here, how do you think the Hawks handled this injury?
I think the Hawks are full of a bunch of young, hungry, scrappy guys, and they're athletic, and I think that they're still going to be solid. And like we said, I think Trey will come back pretty quickly. It's not too serious of an injury. So he'll be back soon, and I think that they can definitely win some games before he comes back. I don't think they're going to just blow all these games with him out.
Yeah, I don't know. It's going to be tough. I don't think he'll miss too much time. I expect no more than 2 weeks he'll be out. And I heard the Hawks have like a weird thing coming up on their schedule, 1 game in the next 6 days, which is kind of interesting.
It's a nice break for them.
It's a great break for them because Trae Young's been insane, and the offense runs through him. So I think they will struggle without him. But however, if it's not that many games, it won't be the end of the road for this Atlanta Hawks team at all. Now I just read off my 3. David, rattle off yours.
All right, Hunter, we only had one of the same people on this one. The first guy on my list, I cannot ignore what Anthony Davis has done.
Yeah, I mean, it's a given.
Yeah, he's on my Player of the Week list. I think Anthony Davis is going to put up historic numbers this year. I believe it was the first time since 2003 there was a 40-20 game. I don't know if that's league-wide
I think it was,
or a Laker record.
I know Shaq did in 03, so you're definitely at least the Lakers, if not in general. So I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, and an interesting comment from LeBron regarding that. After that performance, LeBron said he hasn't even scratched the surface.
He's right, too. That's the thing.
That's unbelievable. He did it in 3 quarters.
3 quarters. Didn't even play a minute. Didn't break a sweat.
And he has a bad shoulder.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, he did. He only made 7 shots that whole game, but he got to the line 27 times and only missed 1.
Unbelievable. It would be a crime for me not to have Anthony Davis on my list for Player of the Week.
Very fair.
Next up is Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
Not just with his 50-point performance that he had against the Timberwolves. And it's tough because the Nets, they let a few of these games get away from them. They were all close games. And Kyrie played out of his mind. Kyrie needs to get some help. Spencer Dinwiddie's stepping up a little bit, but they need to play as like a complete team and really get the ball moved around a lot instead of Kyrie just dribbling out the shot clock every single time. So I have to roll with Kyrie, even though they let some of these games get away from us. He is on my player of the week list as well. And my third one might be a little interesting. It's not an unfamiliar guy. LeBron James, he has not been putting up the craziest numbers we've ever seen. We've seen him put up crazier numbers, but I think he's doing the perfect amount of allowing Anthony Davis to really step up and just absolutely ball out here in the early part of the season. And LeBron, he's being a great floor general, as we know he is. So I think once LeBron figures out, like, he's not going to be point guard the whole entire time, but I think he's doing a great job of being the floor general just the right amount. And he's scoring when he needs to these last couple of games. So I'm really happy with the way he's been playing.
Yeah, LeBron did have a really good game against the Grizzlies when Anthony Davis went off. But, of course, no one's going to talk about it because Anthony Davis had that historic night. Of course, you mentioned 3 number 1 picks that made your list. I thought that was a little interesting. Definitely not a coincidence, just kidding. But yeah, it is not a coincidence.
I actually didn't know that. I didn't think of that.
It's not a coincidence. That's a fact. Cold take right there. But speaking of teams or players that are doing really well, we're going to talk about teams that it's time to get on the bandwagon or get off the bandwagon. So first, we're going to start with the Indiana Pacers. They were 0-3. They just got their first win yesterday. Malcolm Brogdon, he has looked great. He's leading the league in assists per game, which is interesting because he's not really even a traditional point guard. And then Miles Turner's also looked really good, but he just got hurt. He may be missing some time. I heard he's like day-to-day-ish. It could be missing a week or two of action as well. So are you panicking about the Pacers at all, or do you think that this is just a bad start and they'll get back on track?
Hunter, I'm going to go with the second thing you just said. I think this is just a rough start for them. I was on the Pacers bandwagon when we were talking on this podcast before the season even started. I think this team has the potential to be a top 4 seed in the Eastern Conference. Yes, they got off to a rough start. They had a few bad losses. They lost to Detroit 2 times, lost to Cleveland. It didn't look very good. But there are plenty of bright things to look at with this team. Malcolm Brogdon, a great pickup for them. Leading the league in assists, apparently. I didn't realize he was leading the league in assists.
I know, it's crazy.
So you have that. Miles Turner, who I've been really high on. And I think once Oladipo comes back, I'm not exactly sure when that's going to be, but hopefully soon. I think that this team will figure it out and gain some momentum once Oladipo makes his return.
Yeah, I think they'll definitely be better when Vic gets back, of course. But I'm not as high on the Pacers as you are this year. And I think the fact that Turner's also out right now and Oladipo, I am a little bit nervous about them because those are 2 of their best players. This team's not as deep as they've been in years past. I am a little bit worried about the Pacers because I think every year there's always a couple teams that fall out of the playoffs, and maybe it's them. I don't know.
Definitely fair.
I had them as my 8th seed to begin with, and if they're dealing with injuries already, that's going to be an issue. So another team, this team's doing really well actually, is the San Antonio Spurs. At the recording of this podcast, because I know they play tonight. Don't know what the score of that game is right now, but the Spurs are 3-0 entering tonight. DeMar DeRozan has been awesome. I feel like he's been almost a little bit overlooked as a player. DeJounte Murray looks better than he did before his injury, which is obviously in favor of the Spurs. They played well during their first real game against the Trailblazers. I don't know if the Knicks and the Wizards count as legit competition. I like the Knicks. They're fun to watch, but the Wizards, they let up 159 points. So, David, are you high on the Spurs? Are you someone who thinks that their dynasty is going to end this year and the playoff appearances streak is going to end, or do you think that they're going to keep it up?
Hunter, when we made our standings for each conference, I could not leave the Spurs out of it.
I couldn't.
I just had to put the Spurs in it. This team never, ever tanks for a reason. Coach Popovich, I think he's the best coach in NBA basketball. Like you said, DeRozan, he seems to have forgotten about. He's DeMar DeRozan. Like this guy's
DeMar DeRozan.
Yeah, this guy's an all-star player. He's a bucket. And he can go and win you a basketball game, you know, when the game is on the line. We really like how DeJounte Murray looks. And like you said, I know they didn't have all 3 of their wins be all quality wins over all 3 good teams, but they beat who was in front of them. And beating Portland is no joke. Portland is a tough team to beat, and I am not worried about the Spurs whatsoever. I think that they're going to keep rolling. I don't know if they're going to Like, they'll drop a game here and there, but I think we'll find them definitely in the playoff running in this Western Conference.
I agree. I don't think they'll be one of the top seeds in the West because the West is really good, but like I'm not going to be the guy who picks the Spurs not to make it. That's just I'll be late on the bandwagon there. It's fine. It's fine. Now, a team that's weirdly doing well is the Minnesota Timberwolves. They are 3-1. They're scoring a bunch of points. They're 4th in the league with 21.3 points per game. It's basically the Karl Anthony Towns show there, although it's not going to be for the next 2 games after that brawl, or whatever you want to call that. But he has played fantastic, so give credit where it's due. David, are you sold on Minnesota at all?
So I'm not sold on Minnesota.
Keeping the money in the wallet, yeah.
But let me clarify by saying I think they can have a very strong regular season. Based on what I've seen, I think they can make the playoffs, although the West is super stacked this year. I know I didn't have them making the playoffs in my original standings, but this team's tough to beat when Karl Anthony Towns and Wiggins are both playing really well. We have on our notes here that they score 121 points per game so far. I know we have a small sample size, but that's really something. And I also want to say, I think the Culver pickup in the draft was good.
Yeah, I like Culver, yeah.
Yeah, he's been getting minutes for them, and I think that's going to increase, and he's going to have more of an increased role as we move along here in the season.
Once he's able to adjust to the physicality and the pace of play of the NBA, I think he'll only be better offensively. Defensively, he can come in right away and give you minutes. I'm not sold on the Timberwolves. I'm not. I think this is one of these fluky teams that just got off to a good start. Karl Anthony Towns is really good. Not going to take away from him at all. I love the way that Saunders is able to use him. They're using him more in the perimeter. Maybe be a little bit more of a face-up player rather than just a back-you-down guy, which he can do, but you don't want to limit Karl Anthony Towns. He is a once-in-a-generation type talent. There's a reason he went number 1 overall, so.
That's right. He's an absolute beast. He's been putting up crazy numbers so far. Hunter, these next 2 games for the Wolves, without Towns, I do not need to see who they're playing, but they are dropping these next 2 games with no Towns.
Yeah, I don't know who they're playing either, but the Timberwolves will be back to 3-3, an average team as they've been for many times. The next team that's also 3-1, a team that I think has more upside, though, is the Dallas Mavericks. The Luka, Kristaps, Porzingis duo looks legit to me. I think they already look like ahead of schedule. These 2 young guys both just fit so well, snug like a glove, so to speak. These 2 guys, they just complement each other so well. And, we talked about it on our podcast. I don't know if it was last week or 2 weeks ago. We were like, who's their best player on the Mavs? Maybe it doesn't matter because they have a great supporting cast. And I really like all the different players that they bring to the table. And at this point, I don't think playoffs are out of the realm of possibility for a young Dallas team.
Yeah, we'll get to the Warriors next, but I think that's a team that's going to drop out of the playoffs, and that's another spot that opens up. So I think the Mavericks have an opportunity to make the playoffs here. Like you said, the Luka KP combo is a super great combo. If it was a restaurant, I would order that combo. And
value meal.
Yeah, that's right. And I really like where this team is going, the direction they're going. What do you think about the criticisms that no one knows who their 3rd best player is?
I get it, but at the same time, it's like when your first 2 players are A, super young, and B, producing all-stars right out the gate, even at a young age. And really, this is only the first couple of games these 2 guys have played together because Kristaps was out all of last year. He just got acquired by the Mavericks. It's only Luka's 2nd season. So these 2 guys, the versatility and the size is just uncomparable.
Hunter, I'm looking at their last win they had. They were able to defeat the Nuggets by 3 points, and that's a solid win for this Mavericks team because the Nuggets are tough to beat. I just counted 9 guys on the Mavericks who scored in double figures.
That's awesome.
That's unbelievable. 9 guys.
9 guys. I mean, do you need a 3rd player when you got 7 other guys that can contribute? I don't think so. Especially when your top 2 are all-stars.
Yeah, so there's your answer to the people who are criticizing them, saying,
haters.
they don't have a 3rd best player. All those people drinking haterade out there. They had 9 guys scoring double figures, and they were able to get the win over Denver.
Yep, keep sipping. So next we got the Golden State Warriors. This is more bad news here, however. We talked about Steph Curry hurting his hand, breaking his hand. Not hurting is probably a little watered-down version of that. This team is trash on defense. It's awful to watch. They were losing to the Phoenix Suns, who look better, but they were losing to the Phoenix Suns 72-46 at halftime. And Steve Kerr and Draymond Green both have vocalized their frustrations. I mean, is it time to press the panic button?
Hunter, it is time to slam that panic button, press that button. I think that the Warriors, with this Curry injury, I know it won't take him the whole season to come back. He'll probably be back in, 6 to 8 weeks, but I think this team is officially tanking.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to say.
Crazy.
We're talking about the Golden State Warriors
that was
dynasty.
in the finals,
They were a dynasty up until a couple months ago.
Yep, a couple months ago.
So here we are.
It's really crazy, honestly. Like, what a downfall. I'm sure they'll bounce back eventually once Clay gets back, which probably ends up being next year. But nevertheless, I'm not too concerned about them. But yeah, for this season, I wonder if they trade D'Angelo Russell now or if they just let him play. That's also a weird situation to deal with.
It's D'Angelo's team right now, that's for
D'Lo.
sure. And him and D'Lo and Draymond Green, that's who the Warriors have right now, and that's about it.
Big yikes. Next, we're talking about the New Orleans Pelicans. This is a team that had high expectations entering the season, mainly because of Zion, but no Zion. They're 0-4. Ingram is right now putting up all-star numbers if he's able to keep it up. But bigger picture here, they're 0-4, but they've been competitive. What kind of impact will Zion make when he gets back?
Interesting to say. You would think that he would be the difference maker in these games. You said they're competitive. I'm really excited for Zion to make his return. It'll be interesting to see how he matches up with other teams and just how he fits into this lineup. I'm excited for Lonzo Ball. I think the best thing to happen to him was getting out of L.A. Like you said, Brandon Ingram is stepping it up. And they have a lot of guys. They have J.J. Redick's leadership, and I think the Pelicans are going to turn it around. I'm not saying that they're a playoff team just yet, but I don't think this 0-4 is too much to panic about.
Weirdly, I'd be like, oh no, they're 0-4, but like they've looked good in all their games. They just haven't been able to close it out as well as they should have. Perhaps Zion Williamson's the closer, because again, I think they're gonna ask a lot of him, but I think Zion is a guy that as a rookie can come in right away and do a lot. So on both ends of the floor, which is very important for this team, especially a young team. And next, another young team that is struggling is the Sacramento Kings. They are 0-5. They may be the most disappointing team of the season so far. No Marvin Bagley, which is a huge setback. Buddy Hield, De'Aaron Fox, Harrison Barnes, the next three of the best players, all struggling. I mean, David, what happened to the Kings?
Hunter, I was going to ask you the same thing. I don't know what happened to the Kings. Do you think that I don't think this is all because Marvin Bagley got hurt.
I don't think so either.
I don't think they'd be doing so well even if they had him. I'm not saying that they'd be 0-5 if they still had Bagley, but this team has major problems, and I'm not sure what exactly is wrong with them right now.
I don't know. I mean, their defense is terrible, and I think when your star players aren't shooting the ball well, especially guys like Buddy Hield, who's super efficient, yeah, that's an issue. So
they were looking good last year.
They were, and I think this was a team that people thought could have maybe sneaked into the playoffs, but I don't know. I don't have a good feeling about this team. I'm not going to lie. But next we're going to talk about teams that we do have good feelings about. Me and David each compiled an NBA Power Rankings list. Don't worry, we're not going through all 30 teams. We're not going to bore you to death. We're just going to talk about the 10 best teams. Me and David both do not know each other's lists at all. We didn't look at them or anything like that. It'll be interesting to see how we think or if we agree or disagree on things. So, David, how do you want to do it? You want to read your first 5? I read my first 5. You want to go 1 to 10?
I guess we could go 5 at a time. I think that works.
All right, you want to go 1 to 10, or do you want to go like 10 to 6, or like how you want to do this?
Oh yeah, I didn't think of that.
Yeah, it's a lot of thinking going on.
How about let's start at number 10. I think that'll be interesting. A little countdown action.
A little countdown. Yeah, it's like the balls dropping on New Year's, of course. All right, I'll read mine first. So number 10, I have a bit of a saucy team here. The Dallas Mavericks.
Okay, number 10 in the power
I've been
rankings.
watching a lot of Dallas Mavericks basketball because they're fun to watch. A lot of shooting, a lot of fun pick and roll action offense, and I'm sold. I think this team's good. They were about like my 9 seed, not making the playoffs, just missing it, before the season started, but I think the Warriors are so bad that they're not making it, and I think that Dallas will slide into that and really be a good team. And this team's legit, even though they're young.
Yeah, I really like what the Mavericks are bringing, and I think that like we said, Luka and KP are an amazing combo. And it's funny you said you had them as the 9 seed in your Western playoffs because that's like a 3 or 4 seed in the East. So you take a look at that, and it's really something.
Yeah, definitely, David. Obviously the Dallas Mavericks, again, I'm high on them. So another team, I'm going to stick into the start, or I forgot what the name of the state is, but Texas. Forgot, like, was it the Lone Star State?
It's the biggest state.
No, I meant like the Lone Star, like they're like little nickname.
Okay, it's a nickname.
Whatever. I'm gonna go with the San Antonio Spurs. Again, we both like them. They're 3-0. They're undefeated. I feel like if you're undefeated at this point, it's hard not to put you on the list, and they look good. So yeah, offensively, defensively, this team's deep. I would like to say that they're well coached. Bold take right there. But yeah, I feel like it was hard not to leave the Spurs off this list.
Yeah, the Spurs have a nice combination, in my opinion, of some veteran stars. You have DeRozan, and we always forget about Aldridge. We haven't mentioned him. And then they have a nice group of young players surrounding those guys, along with Coach Pop, of course. So I think that this team has a nice roster right now. They can do a lot of things, and I think they're going to be a really strong defensive team. So defense wins championships, as they say.
Defense wins championships. That's what people say. Not in the NBA, because no one plays defense in the NBA anymore.
Not anymore.
Now I'm going to go to a team in the East, in the Boston Celtics. And, this team is I wasn't super high on them entering the season, but they had some big wins. They beat Milwaukee, who's a good team, so I have to give them credit where it's due. And their young guys, Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, have really stepped it up this year. Gordon Hayward has shown improvements, after suffering a horrific injury a few seasons back. And, at the end of the day, this team is really talented, and in a wide-open Eastern Conference, they could definitely win some games.
Yeah, Hunter, I think the Celtics have so much potential. I just want to see them put it all together. I think Tatum can be a star one day, and that day might be soon.
Yeah. It's third year, so, time is ticking.
That's right. So I'm just worried about this team's defense, and I don't mean their guards. I think Marcus Smart is an absolute dog on defense, but I'm talking about their bigs.
Oh, God, Enes Kanter.
Yeah, Enes Kanter cannot play defense, so that is that. And I'm not sure what's up with Jaylen Brown. I don't know what's going on with him. He was looking so good like 2 years ago. Last year, he kind of struggled. So I want to see what Jaylen Brown is able to do this year.
Yeah, especially when they dumped all that money into him. Now he's not playing for a contract. He's playing for a position and a role on this team. Now, another guy who is pretty established in this league, the reigning MVP, Giannis, and the Milwaukee Bucks are number 7 on my list. I know that the Celtics beat them, but they're 2-2. And look, they're going to be higher on my list when the season ends. I'm looking at it right now. And the Bucks, it looks a little weird. They're missing some important players like a Malcolm Brogdon from last season. And new players are getting different roles. Pat Connaughton's had a bigger role. And Giannis doesn't look as good. I'm not saying he's taking a step back or anything, but he just hasn't played as well. And I don't know necessarily why. So I think once he picks it up, they'll definitely be higher on my list.
Yeah, you cannot ignore the Bucks. I'm a little surprised you have them down at 7, but you have fair points. So I get it. And we did mention that Giannis, he's not putting up the crazy numbers that we've seen him put up, so I think he'll adjust, though.
I always want to bet on a guy like Giannis. And number 6, I have the Denver Nuggets. They've looked pretty good. I think they're 3-1 right now. Again, Nikola Jokic doing what he does, and they have a very good, young, deep team as well, which will definitely last throughout all 82 games of the season. Not much to be said here. I think they're, staying the course and improving like they did last year.
Hunter, I think this is one of the deepest teams in the entire NBA. They have a huge rotation. Michael Porter Jr. hasn't even seen the court yet. I think they're just keeping him on the shelf for now, and they're going to slowly phase him into the not just the offense, but the defense too. But I think that this team, once they get Michael Porter Jr. going, is going to be dangerous.
Yeah, again, it's weird. Michael Porter Jr. not seeing a lot of minutes. People are kind of wondering why, including David Green. He is very frustrated.
Yeah, I'm confused.
He's confused. All right, so I just read my 10-6. David, how about you start your countdown?
Okay, let's get started with my countdown. At number 10, I have a Western Conference team, the Portland Trailblazers. I have number 10.
It was hard for me leaving them off, but, it's only 10 teams. So
That's right. I could not leave off the Blazers here. And when I actually made the list, I started at number 1 and then went down. But I'm going with the Blazers here. Damon CJ, obviously. I think Rodney Hood really stepped it up in the playoffs last year, which I really wanted to see when he was on Cleveland, but he wasn't able to do. But for whatever reason, on the Blazers, he had a phenomenal playoff performance.
Yeah, he did. It was I think it was against the Nuggets. He really played well.
Yeah, he kept them in a lot of games with his 3-point shooting. The guy can defend. And they replaced a guy who cannot defend in Enes Kanter with Hassan Whiteside, who is a great rim protector. A little inconsistent, but I have the Blazers at number 10. So number 9 might be a hot take, and this is not a pun. I have the Miami Heat as the number 9 in my power rankings. I really love this team, and it's not just because I grew up in South Florida. No bias here. I think this team is actually for real. Tyler Hero, the rookie, he's doing phenomenal. He's putting up numbers that we haven't seen for a Miami Heat rookie since Dwayne Wade was a rookie, which is super respectable. They've drafted some solid players. That's right. It's very good company. And Jimmy Butler just returned. This team was looking good before Jimmy Butler even returned. Kendrick Nunn, a guy that most people have never even heard of, guy from the G League, he's putting up like almost 20 points a game. And this team, Goran Dragic is doing well. Justice Winslow is becoming a super versatile offensive player. And now that Jimmy Butler's back, I think this team is dangerous. And let's not forget Bam Adebayo.
Bam Adebayo.
The man's a beast.
He's a beast with a beast name. And, yeah, I definitely I do like the Heat a lot. They may have been number 11 on this list, honestly, unofficially. But I do really like the Heat. I have number 4 entering this season as the 4th seed in the Eastern Conference. I was very high on them. Still am very high on them. And they were winning games without Jimmy Butler, And now he's back. So that's only going to make them better. And they already look really good without him. And they're going to look even better with him. So I definitely, appreciate that Heat recognition here.
Yeah, that's right. And let's give credit where credit is due. Coach Eric Spoelstra deserves some credit because
he does.
That
doesn't get enough.
Yeah, they develop players.
Yep.
So moving on, my number 8 team in the power rankings is the Denver Nuggets, a team you mentioned, we talked about. I think they are one of, if not the deepest team in the league. Just wait until Michael Porter starts playing. I cannot stress that enough.
Free Michael Porter.
The dude is so dynamic. I can't wait to see him play. And even without him, they have a really nice team. Jamal Murray, I want to see him do what he did last year. If he can do what he did last year, this team's going to be really hard to beat. Because they have a lot of young, hungry guys, and they're all dogs, in my opinion.
They're dogs.
Moving on, we mentioned we cannot leave out the San Antonio Spurs.
Can't.
I have them at number 6 on my power rankings. For all the reasons we mentioned earlier, Coach Popovich, the combination of DeMar DeRozan and LaMarcus Aldridge, along with this young group they have, I think the Spurs can do some great things this year.
Yeah, again, the San Antonio Spurs, me and David are not ready to write them off yet. I think that is very unfair. So
moving on. Yeah, I have one more.
Yeah, one more. Okay, I was
moving
4.
on to my next team. Wait, is this 6 or 5? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yeah. So at number 6, I have the Houston Rockets.
Ooh.
In my NBA power rankings. I'm just not – I can't put them higher than that right now because I don't know how Russ and Harden are going to be heading into the playoffs and how they're going to match up with everyone. However, I've really liked what I've seen from the two of them. We know James Harden really struggled with shooting early on this year, but I think that they're going to get it together. They have Clint Capella. They have P.J. Tucker. They still have a lot of that core. Also Gordon. And that system they have, they put up 159 points the other night. I know they gave up 158,
yep.
but still, this team they could be very dangerous.
Yeah, you're right. This is one of those teams that there's a wide range of outcomes, to say the least. And I'll be honest with you, they're not in my top 10.
The Rockets are not.
They're not in the top 10. As of right now, I just haven't seen enough from this team. I just don't know which team's going to show up every night. Maybe they get together. I'm not saying that there's a chance that they don't do it. There's a chance that they can. But right now, as I'm watching it, I don't think they're a top 10 team right now.
It's crazy to say, but I understand your concerns. I just think this team has so much firepower that they have no choice but to figure it out.
Yeah, they have to at this point. I mean, you're investing all that money in James Harden, Russell Westbrook, and Clint Capella gets paid a lot too. So figure it out, Houston. We have a problem. So number 5 on my list, I felt very uncomfortable putting them at this point, but they've lost their last 2 games, and they've looked pretty bad in those games. That's the Clippers. I have 5, and
okay.
I originally had them 1. And it's just because, again, they'll be higher, I think, at the end of the season. But no Paul George, which I think, of course, holds his team back a bit, although Kawhi and the rest of that team's really good. And, it's, again, 5 still, I'm still saying you're the 5th best team in basketball. I don't think anyone's panicking or feeling too upset about that or too much in their feelings. But, yeah, I mean, the Clippers are still really good. And, yeah, I just those last 2 games getting killed by the Jazz, getting killed by the Suns, it was alarming to me. It really was.
Yeah, it's interesting. You saw the way the Clippers played early on, and you're like, this team is for real. Kawhi Leonard's
awesome
amazing.
That first game.
Yeah, so after seeing them suffer those losses, I do have to take a step back and have my second thoughts, I guess you could say, about the Clippers. Who do you have next? I'm curious to hear.
I have a team that beat the Clippers, which is the Utah Jazz.
Okay.
They got smacked around by the Lakers. However, they were able to bounce back, beat a team like the Clippers. They're 3-1 right now. They're playing really, really well. Donovan Mitchell looks awesome. Their, Game Boyan was a big get for them, a really nice scorer. And this is a deep team that plays defense. They shoot a lot of threes. This is more offense than they've had ever since they got, Spider on there.
Spider Mitchell.
Yeah, Spider Mitchell. But yeah, I really like the Utah Jazz. It was weird putting him at 4 because I think I only had him as like my 4th or 5th seed, picking them out of the West. But I gotta give credit where credit is due, and they are playing phenomenal right now.
I'm really high on the Utah Jazz. I think that they have the nucleus to be a team that makes it possibly all the way to the Western Conference Finals.
You never know.
This addition of Mike Conley, I think, is huge for them.
Yeah, again, Mike Conley is a better point guard with all due respect than Ricky Rubio. You're getting a guy that, was at one point the highest paid player in basketball ever. So
unbelievable.
Number 3 team is, I guess I'm going to stand the Toronto Raptors. And they're 4-1. They're playing so well right now. Pascal Siakam is looking like an all-NBA player right now, legit. And their defense is really good. They lock teams down. They clamp them up. And, you look at this Toronto Raptors team, they still got plenty of offensive firepower as well. And again, my rankings are not based on what I think this will be at the end of the season. It's based on what I'm seeing right now. And right now, I do believe the Raptors are the 3rd best team in the league.
Hunter, I think it's a little crazy that you have them this high. I did not have the Raptors in my top 10 power rankings.
Hater.
I guess you could call me a hater, but I like a lot of things about this team. I was one of the naysayers last year of first-year head coach Nick Nurse. I was like, how are they going to win the championship? It's this guy's first year coaching. Well, they won the championship. Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green are gone, so that's literally my reason for not having them in the top 10 anymore. Although I'll agree they're still a very solid team. They are not to be taken lightly.
Hey, wins matter. And the team that I have in the Eastern Conference, they are the number 1 team, literally by record, and that's the Philadelphia 76ers. The talent's there, and it's producing, and it seems like it fits really well. They won't have Embiid for the next 2 games, but it's only 2 games. There's 82 of them, and they'll be back and rolling, I'm sure. They could probably even win those games without Embiid. Don't know who they play, but this team is good enough to probably withstand without him.
Yeah, I don't think the Sixers have too much to worry about specifically with this Embiid suspension. It's only 2 games. I'm a little surprised Ben Simmons didn't get any discipline with this, being that he put Cat in a headlock, and it was caught on tape later on. So yeah, I
saw it live too. I mean, it was obvious.
Yeah, so I do think the Sixers. I'm not worried about this suspension with Embiid. I think they are one of the top teams in the entire league.
And my number 1 team, call me biased, but I do have the Lakers. They've rattled 3 in a row. They've held teams, each of their wins, under 100 points. I think that says a lot. They don't even have Kyle Kuzma back. Now they do. They add their 3rd best player to this team. I'm sure they really need him. They're still figuring out a couple things. I'm sure this team has room to improve. However, I got to give it to the team that has the hot hand and has 2 players playing at MVP levels right now in LeBron and AD.
Hunter, I think it makes perfect sense to have the Lakers at number 1. They have so much firepower, not just on offense, but on defense. This team's playing really well, and LeBron James looks determined on defense, which is great to see.
He's playing well on defense. He's making plays.
Yeah, because let's be honest, it's still October, and they're playing defense like this. It's a great thing to see for Lakers fans.
Yeah, again, defense does win championships, as David has alluded to previously, being 5 minutes ago. But yeah, and look, the Lakers, as a fan of the Lakers, I'm so happy that they're even being considered this high on any list, not just mine. It was hard watching them throughout the dark ages when Jordan Clarkson was considered the future of the franchise, and now Robert Sacre was, penciled in as a starter for this team. I don't even know where he is at this point. Where is he on the missing list?
I don't know. He might be at the YMCA.
Is he Amber Alert? Where is Robert Sacre?
Great question.
Yeah. All right, David. So you read the rest of your power rankings.
I'm sorry. I'm still laughing at you saying Clarkson was once the future of the Lakers franchise. That is so funny. So moving on to my top 5 NBA power rankings. I have most of the same teams as you in a couple different positions. Like I said, I left the Raptors out of my top 10. I'm really sorry.
Okay,
but...
I'm not a Raptors fan. It's fine. I don't. Yeah. Seems like I'm not.
All right, number 5 in my NBA power rankings. I'm going with the Utah Jazz on this one. I think that this is a fair spot for them. They have a lot of talent on this team. Donovan Mitchell really coming into his own. I think I've said on every episode now consecutively, I think Quinn Snyder is a candidate for Coach of the Year. I loved what he did last year. You bring in Conley. Boyan was a great pickup, and I just think this team is doing nothing but building and building and building.
You're absolutely right. Keep building, take note. And yeah, I think that Quinn Snyder's due for a Coach of the Year. I know he's young and he hasn't been in the league too long, but I feel like he's due for one. I feel like he's going to get one. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, I think if the Jazz can get a really high seed this year, that it could definitely happen.
Could be it.
So, number 4, in my power rankings, I have the Clippers at number 4, which might be a little surprising because I was super high on the Clippers. I was like, I don't know if any team is better than the Clippers going into the year, but they don't have Paul George yet, which is huge. Let's be honest. That is Kawhi's sidekick. He's undoubtedly the second best player on this team. So when Paul George returns, we'll talk about that, and we'll have this discussion again. But right now, I have the Clippers at 4. I trust and believe in Kawhi Leonard 100%.
Yeah.
And if I'm the Clippers and I'm the Clippers owner, who has lots of energy, by the way.
Steve Ballmer, yeah.
Yeah, I love Steve Ballmer. I would put all my trust and give Kawhi all my money. So I have the Clippers at 4 right now. And then number 3 in my All-NBA power rankings, I got to put the Milwaukee Bucks here. I think that Giannis, I wouldn't even consider it a slump he's in right now. He just isn't putting up these crazy numbers.
It's weird because like he dominates so much that you're just like, is it a slump or is he just like? But he's still putting up like good numbers. It's not like he's like a scrub, you know. It's not like he disappeared. Like
yeah, so I think the Bucks, they didn't have like the super hot start to the year that a lot of people were expecting, but I think this team will eventually, in the next couple weeks, probably start building some major momentum. And
I agree, yeah.
They'll start looking like they're the top best team or second best team in the East. So I have the Bucks at 3 in my NBA power rankings for now. At number 2, I'm going with the 76ers. I think the Sixers are the second best team in the league at this current moment. That's with Joel Embiid. I know they'll be without him for 2 games. We mentioned
it's
that.
with Embiid, like it's 2 games.
Look, I think with this whole let's address the elephant in the room. I think with this whole fight that happened the other night with Embiid and Karl Anthony Towns, and of course Ben Simmons jumped in because he's not afraid of anything, that I think that this incident is ultimately really going to bring this team together even more. I think they're going to be talking about it at practice.
It probably will be pretty funny.
Yeah, they're all going to be hyped up about it. And, you know, this team's a bunch of young guys, and they're all dogs. And the way they play defense is just such a beautiful thing for Sixers fans to see, I have to say. In particular, Matisse Thybulle, people have had their concerns about him.
Leonard.
Yeah, people have had their concerns about him. Hunter's not crazy about him, but this guy is putting up historical defensive numbers as a rookie, and it cannot be ignored.
Yeah, it can't be. He's playing well. I give credit where credit is due, of course. Here on Ball Don't Lie, we prefer to give credit, not, bash players. But yeah, it's interesting because, like, watching the whole fight go down, or fight, whatever you want to call it, or as I think Charles Barkley called it, a snuggle fest.
A brouhaha.
Yeah, a bro down. But yeah, it's funny because you see Karl Anthony Towns get escorted off the court, and he's like, I'm so mad. God, and Joel Embiid is literally hyping the crowd up, and they're chanting MVP. It is the funniest thing. I love how the Sixer fans love it.
It's the best thing ever, honestly. Embiid is perfect for that city, and that city is perfect for what Embiid with what happened.
He got in Towns' head though. It was so obvious. He got in his head.
Hunter, I don't know if
he
you
had
saw.
His number.
Yeah, I don't know if you saw as Hunter was you're Hunter. As Embiid was walking off the court, hyping up the crowd, pounding his fist. The crowd was going wild. Karl Anthony Towns' mom was actually in the stands right near the tunnel, she was shaking her fist at Embiid saying, you like she was really mad that
I did not know that. That's so
yeah,
funny.
I have to show you the clip later
Yes.
on, but that was absolute icing on the cake. I think that was one of the best moments of the year so far. Obviously, it's not good that players are fighting. We don't want that.
Yeah.
We don't condone that here.
No, we don't
want
to see that. Not at all.
But look, I actually mentioned this to Hunter before we started the podcast. I think that this love fest that opposing players are always having, I'm sick and tired of it, to be honest. And I want this animosity to be there. I want this competitiveness to be there.
There it is.
And this reminds me of some like early 90s New York Knicks, like craziness.
Jeff Van Gundy hanging on to Patrick, or is it Alonzo Mourning, Patrick Ewing's leg? He's like hanging on for dear life.
Yeah, and they had Charles Oakley and those boys.
Larry Johnson.
Yeah, so time to move on. I have the Sixers at number 2. We got a little sidetracked because that fight was a sidetrack from the actual game.
It's true.
So the Sixers I have at number 2. That leaves the Los Angeles Lakers as my number 1 team in the current NBA power rankings. Figured you might like that, Hunter. So
It's nice.
Yeah, so like we said with the Lakers, they have the best player in basketball. Yes, I believe LeBron is still the king. He is still sitting on that
King's
throne.
court.
LeBron is still the best. He had that injury last year, but he just had the longest offseason and longest break of his whole entire career. And I think Anthony Davis is arguably the most talented player that has been along his side. So that's just 2 guys. You look at the rest of the team, they're really deep. And like you said, Kuzma's not even back yet.
Yeah, and he's going to be back. So it's going to be interesting how they bring him into the lineup. I want to get a little sidetracked here because I want to talk about my Lakers just really quickly.
Right ahead.
With Kuzma coming back, it sounds like he's coming off the bench, but I was thinking about it. I think he should start.
You think so?
I was thinking, and I'm like,
he
look,
is the number 3 guy, I think.
JaVale, he's definitely the 3rd best player, and definitely 3rd best scorer, 100%.
For
but
sure.
I think about it this way, like Anthony Davis and JaVale McGee, it's been a little weird. It's looked weird, and like you tell me Anthony Davis can't play the 5, like he's one of the best, rim protectors in the league. You have another shooter out in the starting lineup rather than a guy like McGee who's good but isn't going to shoot threes. And that's even more floor spacing for these 2 guys, LeBron and AD, to do their thing. And I think, Kuzma, who I think will improve his shooting numbers, especially from the perimeter, I feel like that starting lineup is so lethal, and they can switch everything at that point.
So, Hunter, you said it's a little weird, the dynamic between Anthony Davis and
JaVale
McGee.
JaVale McGee.
Yeah, how could you 2-time Shaqtin' a Fool MVP? How could you forget?
He's got the hardware.
But where does Dwight Howard fit into all this? Does Dwight come off the bench or does JaVale come off the bench?
I think
Or do both of them come off the bench?
I think that Dwight kind of steals his minutes because Dwight Howard, it's weird because
he's looking good.
I was watching the Bill Simmons podcast or listening to the Bill Simmons podcast, and he was talking bad about Dwight Howard, like, oh, the Lakers are going to cut him in 10 days. I'm like, have you seen him play? I mean, Bill Simmons is a Celtic fan. He's always going to hate on the Lakers. But, like, Dwight Howard, I don't know if you've, like, caught him a bit, but he's looked so good for this team. And him coming off the bench, he's that energizer that they need. The crowd loves him, which is crazy to think that somehow in an alternate universe, Dwight Howard, the way he leaves the Lakers, comes back, and now Laker fans are like, we love Dwight.
a fan favorite in LA so far. So I don't remember which game it was, but I looked at the box score. Dwight Howard had a double-double, and he shot 8 for 8 from the floor. How could you not want that guy on the court?
I believe it was the Hornets game. Yes.
Yeah, how could you not want him on the court?
He does. He knows his role. He knows he's like, look, I know I'm not the star player of this team. I think this is an adoption Melo has to do as well because Melo is not that guy anymore either. But Dwight Howard is like, look, I'm going to do whatever it takes to win. And he knows his role, and he's embellishing his role, and as a result, the Lakers are winning games. So I think JaVale McGee may just get the band end of the stick here because I think, if you're going to play Davis more at the 5, I have a hard time imagining that they're going to play McGee over Howard. Howard's actually getting more minutes than him, so McGee just may get the bad end of the stick here.
Yeah, let's be honest. Dwight Howard carried a team to the NBA Finals once upon a time.
Yeah, 6 times he was All-NBA in a row. That's insane.
Yeah, so Dwight Howard is he's not a superstar anymore, but he's Dwight Howard. So
Dwight Howard.
Let's give him some respect.
Absolutely. And yep, so that is going to wrap up our power rankings here. Next, we're going to talk about something I like to look at early in the season because I always like to look how either realistic or unrealistic it is, the NBA points per game leaders. So, again, David, I always like looking at this. A guy who wasn't first, but now is James Harden, scored 59 freaking points against the Washington Wizards, the miserable, sorry, Washington Wizards. Sorry, it's true. I feel bad for their fans. At least the Nationals won. But the Washington Mystics are the real best team in D.C. But, Harden averaging 36.8 per game. I would say, he's not going to do that the whole season, but I'm sure he can get kind of close. I wonder, do you think him and Westbrook can work together? And do you think Westbrook hinders him from leading the league again scoring?
Yeah, that number's right on the point because Harden actually averaged 36 points per game last year, which was the most that's ever been averaged in a long time. I believe since Michael Jordan.
Yeah. I mean, Kobe got 35, but yeah, since Jordan, yeah.
Yeah, and Tracy McGrady once, he put up 30-something. But, yeah, with the whole Westbrook-Harden dynamic, I think that once they get out in the open court, they're unstoppable. But I think it'll really work in the short term, but I'm just not sold on the long term. I don't know what's going to happen, but this team is so fun to watch. When Harden, when Russ grabs that rebound and just takes off and then dishes it to Harden on the fast break, it's like nothing I've ever seen.
Yeah, I think Harden is, even if he's still dominating the ball, with Westbrook, you have to give up some of that ball handling responsibility. You do. So the question is he going to be willing to? And if he does, it's going to be hard for him to average, lead the league in points per game. I still think he could definitely do it for sure.
Yeah, there's that. And I do think the Rockets did a pretty good job of staggering the minutes of Harden and Chris Paul. I heard they're going to do the same thing with Russ and Harden. So that'll be interesting to see. But obviously they're going to be on the court at the same time.
Yeah,
so
it's going to happen.
So, I want to see. I got to see more games and see what they do.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, one thing I do like, a difference between Westbrook and Chris Paul is defensively, because Westbrook, they switch a ton in Houston, and Westbrook's so big and athletic that he can guard multiple positions.
Yeah, without question. Westbrook, he's not the biggest guy out there, but he's so physically imposing and just ferocious and intense, and he brings it 100% every night. That's no news to anyone at this point who watches the NBA, but I totally agree with you about your point on defense. I just want to see Harden give that effort on defense.
Yeah, something he hasn't done his whole career. So next, a guy who doesn't play a lot of defense but a lot of offense, Kyrie dropped a 50-piece, helped bump him to number 2 in scoring at 35.3 points per game. Look, he's not going to, even without Kevin Durant, he's not going to average that much all season, but do you think Uncle Drew will keep, crossing up these young bloods, keep getting buckets? And is there an outside chance he can even lead the league in scoring this year?
Hunter, I think it's possible he could lead the league in scoring. Kyrie has the best ball handling I have ever seen in the NBA.
I agree, and just finishing around the rim is, oh my God.
Yeah, it's like nothing I've ever seen. If this dude was 6'6", it would be over for everybody.
Ugh.
So, I just want to see Kyrie get more help around him. Obviously, Durant, he'll eventually come back, but I want to see some other people on this team step up. We know they have Harris. He's a great shooter. Won the three-point shootout last year, actually. I did not pick him to win, so I wish I did. Spencer Dinwiddie, I think he's a phenomenal sixth man, but this team just needs more around Kyrie, I think.
Yeah, we'll see, because this is kind of the experimental year. See, what do we have now, and how confident do we feel adding KD to the mix as well with this current state of the roster. But yeah, it is going to be fun just watching Kyrie just shoot at will, because we'll see how much he trusts his teammates or not. And a guy who may or may not be able to trust his teammates is Karl Anthony Towns. Again, as we alluded to, even though he's in the fight suspended, he's off to a really good start. I like the offense they implemented around him. I just kind of wonder, if they keep winning games and Towns is doing what he's doing, can he be a dark horse MVP candidate?
Hunter, that's a crazy question. I actually never even considered that.
Yeah.
But now that you say it out loud, I don't know. The numbers he's been putting up are really something. So it would take some catastrophic things to happen around the NBA. It really would. And he can't let guys like Embiid get in his head to where he starts swinging at them. But his talent is there. This guy, he can do everything on offense.
Nothing on defense.
Not a lot on defense. So if he can step it up defensively, anything's possible, I suppose.
Look, if the Timberwolves win a lot of games, that's kind of the ultimate deterrent here. But yeah, you and me aren't super high on the Timberwolves, so I don't think it is maybe he could maybe be top 5, that 5th guy maybe in the MVP voting, because they do have a 1 to 5 voting system.
Now, Hunter, how do you feel about, so Thibodeau used to coach this team, and now they have Saunders. I know they had him last year, but what's the difference with Karl Anthony Towns being coached by Tom Thibodeau or Thibodeau, however you say it?
However you say, who knows?
Yeah, you can say it both ways. To now they have Saunders coaching, so how do you think that looks different?
He's letting Karl Anthony Towns be Karl Anthony Towns, and Tom Thibodeau's like, get your behind on the block, you score in the paint, and you occasionally hit threes. You know, Saunders is like, nah, he can hit threes. He's actually, I believe he has the best 3-point percentage for a 7-footer in NBA history.
I believe it. I fully believe it.
I think he does, which is pretty insane when you think about it. I think he's definitely hit the most threes by a 7-footer up to this many games of his career. Any guy who's played in 4 years, now 5, which is crazy. But yeah, Karl Anthony Towns is a freak of nature. You know, he can do a little bit of everything. He's basically like a 7-foot shooting guard out there, and they're using him like it. And as a result, it is paying off for the Timberwolves, at least in the short term.
Yeah, and we talked about his shooting. He can shoot these shots off the dribble as well. At his size, for someone who can shoot that off the dribble, it's unbelievable. It's almost unheard of.
Yeah, it basically is. And we're going to talk about two other freaks in nature right here. Giannis and LeBron James. Both guys are outside the top 10 in scoring. Giannis is 15th in the league at 23.8. LeBron is 17th at 23.3. Do you think this is just a coincidence? It's like, all right, it's just a couple games, like they'll get higher? Or do you think these two are going to see lighter workloads this season?
I'm going to start with Giannis on this one. I think that it's just he didn't get off to the super hot start that we expected, like the whole Bucks team. I think the team comes and goes as he goes.
Yep.
But I think Giannis will eventually, he'll start scoring more, and I think that the Bucks, and Giannis in particular, will start building momentum. I think he wants to win the MVP again.
Yeah, he definitely does. I think Giannis wants to win everything. Like, he wants to win. He's not like...
I love that.
I feel like he's a guy, like, they lose, like, game 46 this season, and it's like, all right, whatever, like, you're still 3 games in first place, and he's like, Urgh,
yeah, Giannis is like punching his locker.
Yeah,
like
he's fighting the air. He's like,
yeah. So no one wants to win as bad as this guy. The fact that he's outside of the top 10 in scoring, I don't think that's going to last.
I don't think it's going to last, but it is a little weird. Like, this guy was, I know he didn't lead the league in scoring, but he was like 2nd or 3rd. Like, he gets buckets. Like, I know Giannis is an all-around player, but he's a scorer at will. And it was a little weird seeing this number, but yeah, I highly doubt it stays this low all season.
Hunter, I think we're going to blink our eyes and he's going to have like a 40-point game.
I know.
Maybe a 50-point
we're going to check
game.
like the box score. Like, Giannis is 50 entering the 4th. Be like, okay.
Yeah, I'm excited for next week's edition of Ball Don't Lie because I think that we'll be like, wow, remember last week when we were talking about Giannis?
So much changes. Even today with the rundown, I was like, I made the rundown, Wednesday, and I was like, or Thursday. Today's Thursday. I made it like Wednesday night, like, oh man, I don't even know what we're gonna talk about. And then all this stuff went down. I'm like, okay, so we have a lot talked about. Steph Curry, Karl Anthony Towns, Embiid, like Kyle Kuzma's coming back. I'm like, okay, we got a full show.
Yeah, I took a look at the rundown Hunter made yesterday, the day before that we're recording this, before last night's games happened. And I was like, Hunter, did you see everything that happened? We're going to have to edit that rundown because we got some topics to discuss.
Yep. Put that content out there.
That's right. So, are we moving on to LeBron James here?
LeBron James, let's talk about the man.
Yeah, so I think it's a little different with LeBron. I think that this is calculated, and I don't think LeBron's not going to average 30 points a game this year. Let's be honest. He has Anthony Davis now, the sidekick, coming into his prime. I think AD's, 26 years old?
About so, yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy that he's only that young and he's been in the league so long.
Yeah, that's right. He was an Olympian when he was like a teenager.
Yeah.
So with LeBron, I think that he'll average about maybe 24 points a game is the number I'm going to use. And I think he could have a career high in assists this year just based on who's around him, especially with Danny Green being on his team. Just he's going to find Danny Green in the corner many times this year.
He's been doing it. And Kuzma's a guy too, so it's like...
And if KCP starts making shots, LeBron's going to rack up some assists. What do you think?
He's playing better, KCP's, but I do agree. I think LeBron... I feel like he'll be like 9th, 10th in scoring rather than like 4 or 5 like he's normally been, or even 1st.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, because I think Anthony Davis will lead the team in scoring. I think it's like, look, like AD's just a great scorer. LeBron doesn't have to force him the ball. Like AD's still gonna get his own no matter what. But LeBron's being extra cautious. He wants AD to, he is technically a free agent next summer, so he does want him to make sure he stays with the Lakers. He does have that flexibility. Lakers don't want to be, looking like, Pinhead out there. So who you call him Pinhead? But yeah, so with the Lakers, this team is perfectly constructed around LeBron James to potentially lead the league in assists or get double-digit assists, the most in his career per game in a season. And, yeah, when you look at this Laker team, they are so talented, and LeBron James does have that opportunity. I think he'll be lower in the totem pole in terms of scoring, but I still expect a very efficient and good year for him, of course.
Yeah, and with LeBron, all of this is not to say that he's not going to have like a 40-point game here and there.
Oh, yeah. No, he'll have his, oh, yeah, I forgot he's that good.
Yeah, he's still more than capable of that. If anything happens to Davis, knock on wood. But
oh, God.
I think LeBron, if he needs to, he can score as many points as this team needs him to score. I just think that he's taking a small step back so he can really get the other guys involved.
Like you said, this man is basically Rain Man out here. He's like a human calculator. He knows exactly when to pick his spots. Unfortunately, he knows that on defense as well. That's hurt the Lakers, but now it seems like Anthony Davis is like, look, if you don't play defense, I'm gone. So, yeah, he's like, I'm going the other LA team. Go Kawhi and Paul George.
Totally fair.
LeBron's like, oh, okay, all right, I'll play defense. Fine. Next, we're going to talk about some of the premier games that are going to be on throughout this next week. So first game, Friday night, I talked about it a bit. Kyle Kuzma coming back, making his debut on the road against a young, fun, exciting Dallas Mavericks team. How do you think the Lakers are going to look with Kyle Kuzma now?
We were talking about the Mavericks earlier, saying a lot of nice things about them, but I think the Lakers are going to hand them a big loss. With Kuzma coming back, I'm not sure how many minutes Kuzma's going to play. I'm assuming he's 100% now that he's back. But I think this Lakers team is really starting to roll, similar to the way the Lakers were rolling last year up until LeBron's injury. I believe they were a 3 seed.
Yeah, they were. And I remember that Christmas night game when they dismantled the Warriors. That's the game LeBron, got hurt, and it was all downhill from there. So I got my Christmas present a bit earlier than expected, in theory. So I want the Lakers to at least make the playoffs last year. But yeah, this is going to be a fun, exciting game to watch. I can't wait. The Dallas Mavericks are one of my favorite teams just to watch. There's so much fun, a lot of offense going on there. And then, going against that Lakers defense should also be interesting. Also, the Anthony Davis versus Porzingis matchup should be really interesting to watch.
Yeah, that's right. That's an interesting matchup. Porzingis, he's a little taller than Davis, but he's also a little skinnier than Davis. I think Davis has that muscle, and I think Davis could have another one of those 40-point, 20-rebound nights, possibly. Hopefully that shoulder's feeling okay.
Back of those. Oof, geez, that shoulder will be interesting to see. So another game on Saturday. These teams only play 2 times a season, so I am excited to watch it potentially. The Sixers going into the Moda Center to take on the Portland Trail Blazers. No Joel Embiid, which will be a shame. This, I think, will be an all-guards match, though. Ben Simmons has to step up 100%. Damian Lillard's going to try to come at him as he does every game. David, you being a Sixers fan, I'm sure you'll probably be having your eyeballs on this one. What do you expect out of this game?
I'm pretty excited for this one, Hunter. I think the Sixers match up really well against the Portland Trail Blazers, even though it's on the road. I don't care if it's on the road. I know it's hard to go to Portland and win there, but this Sixers team has so much confidence right now, and I think all the long wing players that the Sixers have are going to make it really hard for Dame and CJ to do what they do. And I don't think it's that big a deal that Embiid is out for these 2 games because they have Al Horford.
That's true. That's a good point.
He might not make the All-Star team this year, but he's made plenty of All-Star teams, and he is going to match up, I think, pretty well against Whiteside. I think Whiteside is, he's talented, and he's really big, but he's just so inconsistent. So I'm really confident the Sixers can go in to Portland and hand the Blazers the loss.
They're handing it to him on a silver platter, according to our own David. But, yeah, this is a super exciting game. Hopefully I can be able to watch as well, keep up with it for sure. Now, Sunday, the games weren't as fun, but I picked an interesting game. It's going to be a division rivalry between the Chicago Bulls and the Indiana Pacers. Both teams struggling right now, only have a win apiece. Who do you think's the team that gets back on track here?
Hunter, I have to say, I think the Pacers are going to bounce back in this one against the Bulls. Like you said, Brogdon, he's leading the league in assists. I still find that amazing. What's the deal with Miles Turner? Is he's hurt right now?
Yeah, he's definitely not playing in this game. I can promise you that.
I still think that the Pacers can win this game. I know Lauri Markkanen on the Bulls. He's a nice young player, and the Bulls have a lot of nice young guards. But I have to go with the Pacers in this one. I think that they're gonna handle this Bulls team.
Yep, handing. This we're using very, specific verbiage here on Ball Don't Lie. This should be a kind of interesting game. I don't know, but I think the Pacers will get back on track too. I mean, I don't know if they play between. They'll probably have another game in between now and then, but yeah, I mean, the Pacers could eventually get back on track as well, and I think they'll beat up on weaker opponents, especially at home. So next we got Monday. This is a game that I expect a lot of threes and zero defense. Again, the Houston Rockets going against the Memphis Grizzlies. A lot of guys that can, shoot the ball. You got really freak athletes in this one. Westbrook, Harden, of course. You got Jaren Jackson and John Morant. I think this is going to be a low-key, really fun game to watch.
Yeah, definitely. I don't think the Memphis Grizzlies are going to be able to win this game against the Rockets. I think the Rockets are going to take a lot from that Wizards game the other night and learn a lot from it. Hopefully they play a little bit of defense. But with the Grizzlies, I really like John Morant and Jaren Jackson. I just don't think they match up that well against this Rockets team, and I don't think John Morant's going to have a game like he had against the Nets. I think it's going to be more like his game that he had against the Lakers.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because rookies are always up and down. That's usually how it goes. Let me ask you this, David. We were talking about it off camera, heading out here to Innovation Park, which is usually a long bus ride, but, the Houston Rockets, do you feel good after beating the Wizards in a really high-scoring game like that? Or are you feeling like, oh, man, we just let up 158 points to arguably the worst team in the NBA?
Yeah, there's pros and cons you can take from that if you are a Rockets fan. You don't want to give up 158 points. I personally don't remember the last game that was that high-scoring.
From both teams.
Yeah, other than an All-Star game. So... I mean, the Rockets did come away with the win. James Harden, it took 59 points from him for them to win the game. Russell Westbrook had his triple-double, but I don't know. How are you feeling? Say you're a Rockets fan. How are you feeling after that game?
Not great. I'm sure it was fun to watch James Harden. Probably wasn't fun watching Bradley Beal drop 46 on you either. But
that's right.
Yeah, I think obviously you have to live and forget. Take it one game at a time. You won, but at the same time, you're definitely not if you're Houston, you're not man, we just got an awesome win. You're like, oh man, that was ugly. But yeah, we'll see if they recoup, play, more sound on defense against a challenging Memphis Grizzlies team.
Play some defense, guys.
A more fun, exciting team. Now, Tuesday, we got the Miami Heat taking on the Denver Nuggets. Again, an East-West matchup. These only happen twice a year between these two teams. It's a weird matchup on paper. I kind of like it, though.
Yeah, where is that game being played?
It's going to be in Denver.
Okay, that'll be a tough one for the Miami Heat to travel out to Denver and try and get that win against that Nuggets team. But I think both of these teams are similar in the fact that they have a lot of young wing players that are really hungry. The guys play really intense. But I don't know. I want to pick the Miami Heat in this one, but I think with Paul Millsap and Jokic, it's going to be a lot for Bam Adebayo to handle.
It is, but yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of weird players. You Justice Winslow, you're is he a point guard? What is he?
Yeah,
they got Jokic, is he a point guard? And then you got, Myers Leonard, who's basically a 7-foot shooting guard. There's a lot of weird pieces. That's why I'm kind of interested to watch this one as well. It's a West Coast game, so it will be on late. But I think it is going to be on NBA TV, so it will be nationally televised, so that's good. And then Wednesday, we got an elite game against the Milwaukee Bucks and the LA Clippers. Kawhi versus Giannis again. I feel like that alone makes this a much-watch game.
Hunter, I don't know who to pick in this one. This one's really tough. Again, that could be determined based on where the game is being played. However, I think that the Bucks are going to come out and make a statement win against the Clippers here. I think Giannis is going to have one of those crazy Giannis performances. I think he's going to get tons of rebounds, and he could drop 40 points.
You know what? I kind of agree with you. I think Giannis is look, I'm sick and tired of everyone being Kawhi had my number. I'm going to come out there. I'm just going to kill it. I'm going to wreak havoc. No one's going to be able to guard me. I'm going to be, as Baker Mayfield likes to say, dangerous. So, yeah,
totally
I am
agree.
definitely going to go with Giannis here. And next but not least, on Ball Don't Lie. We always do our All-NBA teams. It's kind of become a thing. They're a lot of fun to make. They can be a little stressful, but fun. We did our All-NBA League Pass team, so keep up with me here. We each picked 5 players, not necessarily by position, just 5 players we like to watch the most. Guys that we have to watch, that we're excited to watch. There's one rule, though. David, you can't pick players from the 76ers or the Heat, and I cannot pick players from the Lakers and Duke.
Yeah, definitely tough. I love my Sixers, and I love my Miami Heat, so it was hard picking 5 players who don't play for either of those teams, but I was able to put together a nice list. What do you think?
What
do you think of yours?
Yeah,
what do you think of yours?
I'll find out what I think of your list. If you want, we can go one by one. I'll be interested to see if we have any of the same players on our list. So first player I have on my list, this isn't like in order. My first player is Luka Doncic, who I will definitely be watching Friday as they take on the Lakers. I've been watching basically all the Mavericks games. He's must watch. I love him also in the fourth quarter. He is a legit closer. Those step back threes, taking guys off the dribble. You're like, oh my God, this guy's like my age. I'm 20, and this guy is just killing grown men. It's insane to watch, and I think that I said after his rookie year, I'm like, this will be the last year he doesn't make the All-Star game for however many years, and I truly do believe that.
Hunter, I think you read my mind. Luka was on my list too.
Yep.
The guy is just so exciting to watch. I haven't really seen a player like him, if I'm being honest. He's really young, like you said, and he's just dominating grown men out here. And his confidence just rubs off on, I think, all his teammates.
Yeah.
He's just visibly so confident. This guy knows that he can get pretty much any shot he wants. And he's not the fastest or most athletic guy out there, but he's one of the best shooters off the dribble I've seen, and that step back is something special.
It is something special. He has everything in his bag. Bag man, get at me. But yeah, I will say this though. I wonder if I made a top whatever list of NBA players. I don't know where I put Luka. I feel like I'd put him so high because he's producing at an all-star level, and I think he will for the rest of his career.
I can't wait to see what he is able to do once this Dallas team gets good enough to become a playoff team. I can't wait to see playoff Luka.
Playoff Luka. I feel like he's going to be cold, real cold. South Pole cold. But next, I got Donovan Mitchell on my list. You have him too, don't you?
He's my very next guy.
Did you have Luka number 1 on your list?
No,
just writing it down or no?
No particular order, but you said Luka and then you said Mitchell. I had them right next to each other.
So did I. I
Unbelievable.
love watching Donovan Mitchell.
Maybe we should start consulting each other before these lists go out.
I think we and David just, two great minds think alike or two stupid minds think alike. But no, Donovan Mitchell's so much fun to watch. His dribble moves are insane. Like, the way he shakes guys off him, and mention that he has a 40-inch vertical. He's 6'3", and he has a 6'11" wingspan, and he looks has like a size 25 shoe. It's insane. They call him Spider for a reason.
Size 25.
Like, his feet are huge. I'm telling you, if you look at him, you're like, this guy was made in a lab. Like, how is this possible? But yeah, Donovan Mitchell's so much fun to watch. He's always been a guy who I was just like, even when he was at Louisville, I'm like, man, this guy's got everything in his toolkit. And so Donovan Mitchell's a guy, I don't always watch Utah Jazz a lot because they're on very late at night. I always have to make sure when I get the chance to watch just because that man's playing.
Hunter, we have to agree again. So, yeah, I agree that Donovan Mitchell, he is a science experiment gone terribly wrong or right.
Or right.
So, yeah, I love the guy. Spider Mitchell, he is here to stay, and he reminds me a lot of my favorite player ever, Dwayne Wade.
Yep, he does. He does.
And that is great company. And I think he has a really nice team around him with a good coach out in that tough Western Conference, so I'm really excited to see what he does, but he's one of my favorite players to watch. The guy throws down on the regular.
Oh, God, yeah, his putback dunks, posterizing guys. He's not afraid of the moment. Him like Luka, came in right away and dominated the league. But let me say this. It's easy to root for a guy, A, that plays both ends of the floor as hard as he does, and B, just he's such a nice guy. Like, I always see him signing autographs and going out of his way to help out fans. Like, he's a good dude. I can always get behind that.
Yeah, Mitchell seems like one of the nicest guys in the NBA, but I think he's one of those guys that when the lights are on and the ball is thrown up for the tip-off, he is in the absolute zone.
Killer.
Yeah, and especially in the playoffs, he shows up to play for sure.
Yeah, let's not forget that he was the best player on the court his rookie year against Russell Westbrook and Paul George.
Yeah, Donovan Mitchell, he was the absolute steal of that draft, in my opinion. I had no idea who he was when the draft started or when the draft happened. And from the very beginning of that year, this is his 3rd year. So the very beginning of that year, he was averaging 20-plus per game. I think he led all rookies in scoring, and it became a legitimate debate. Who's Rookie of the Year, Donovan Mitchell or Ben Simmons?
Yeah, it did become a debate.
Yeah.
To the point that people are like, Ben Simmons should not be a rookie. Because people just want Donovan Mitchell to win so bad. Now, another guy on my list.
Forget.
I have no. If you have him on your list, I swear to God, I got Devin Booker on my list. Look, Devin Booker is just a bucket too. Let's not forget this man scored 70 freaking points in a game, and the team still lost. And it looks like now that the Suns are actually watchable, Devin Booker has become a better overall player in terms of not just being only a scorer but a passer as well. And look, watching the Suns is pretty difficult, especially if you're a Suns fan. But watching Devin Booker makes it all worth it.
Happy belated birthday to Devin Booker. I believe it was his birthday yesterday.
Yeah,
it's your Michael Jordan year.
Yeah.
You're 23 years old.
Yeah, he's got a late birthday. Like he's not even like for his age like a year ahead. Like he actually has like a late birthday. So he's the youngest player in the league at one point.
Also, the youngest player in the league to ever score 70 points.
Yeah.
I cannot get it. 70. Like, that number is just crazy. That's 11 off of Kobe's 81-point
That's a
game.
big number.
And he did that when he was like 21 years old. So,
God, yeah.
So I think we haven't even seen what Devin Booker can do yet.
I know.
So
it's
if
crazy.
if the
He's still gonna
Suns,
get better.
yeah, I think if the Suns can just like get it together a little
Please,
bit, which
please.
it does look like they're kind of doing.
Yeah.
They're looking pretty good. They beat
The new Kings.
They absolutely annihilated the Warriors. They beat
The Clippers.
They
too.
beat the Clippers. So I'm really excited to see what Devin Booker does the rest of the year because he also can get his shot anywhere he wants,
Yep.
and he can shoot it from anywhere. And he's not just a shooter; he's so athletic.
No
he can
fear
throw
either.
down over somebody too.
No fear. Who else do you have in your list?
Next up, I have C.J. McCollum.
Ooh, nice pick.
I think this dude's handles are ridiculous. You
Yeah,
do not
they
want to
are.
get your ankles broken by CJ because
you do not.
if you are not on your toes, you will. So I think CJ McCollum, he kept the Portland Trailblazers alive so many times in the playoffs. Dame can't do it all by himself, and CJ is the perfect sidekick for him. And these guys are so much smaller than people realize. Dame is like 6'1", CJ is like 6'3". Like, these guys are not big, and they're out here making the playoffs every year. Once upon a time, only a couple years ago, CJ was the most improved player of the year.
That feels like forever ago, but it
Yeah,
really wasn't.
super well-deserved, and this man is going to make an all-star team.
Can we please put him in the All-Star game at some point? Like, he shows up when it counts most in the playoffs. He always puts up great numbers in the regular season as well. Like, come on, put him in.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that if you match up against him in a pickup game, you are trying anything to switch and deal with somebody else because CJ will break your ankles and hit the shot over you every time.
Yeah, next, I have a super big name on the list, but nevertheless, I still love watching him. That's Giannis. You talked about earlier off the air that you were like, I can't put Giannis on my list because he's too big. I don't care. He's so much fun to watch. Again, plays harder than everyone on the court. He wants it more than everyone on the court. And I love a guy who's not only super talented, but he's the hardest worker on the team as well. Those are the type of guys I want to build a franchise around. And Giannis plays hard on both ends of the floor as well. Can guard any position, can play any position on the court, and he's a freak of nature, a guy we've never seen who's only getting better.
I love Giannis so much. He's one of my favorite players. He might be my favorite player who's not on one of my teams. If Giannis is on the TV, I'm switching to that channel every single time. He's one of my favorite players to watch. He plays like a guard, but he can also dunk over any big man in the league and just bully them down low. So I've never seen anything like Giannis. He reminds me almost of like the way Wilt Chamberlain used to dominate.
Oh my God.
So
yeah. Good company.
It makes perfect sense that he's on your list.
Yep.
Next up, I have Zach LaVine.
Ooh,
I think
that's a very nice pick.
I think he is so much fun to watch, Hunter. He's not just a guy who's a high flyer dunker. This guy is so shifty and his handles are ridiculous, and he can pull up on anyone and hit that three ball as well. I don't know if you saw the other night. It was somewhat controversial. He stole the ball or someone got a steal and passed him the ball. He took one dribble from the opposite three-point line and dunked it on the other end of the court. Some say it was a travel. I don't know. Maybe he took an extra
Dave's got
step.
his hands up right now like, I don't know.
But regardless, Zach LaVine took a dribble at the opposing three-point line, got all the way across the whole entire court to dunk it with one dribble. That's insane. And it's not like he's 7 feet tall. Like, he's like 6'5" maybe. So that's just one of the many things he can do. Zach LaVine is absolutely unbelievable. I don't know if he's a superstar in this league, but one of the most fun players to watch, I think.
Yeah, he could potentially be an all-star this year. Again, super fun. I really like that pick. That's a good pick. Yeah, 100%. Zach LaVine is really fun. I have a funny story. So I remember in 2013, I went to a Duke versus UCLA game. I was Jabari Parker and Rodney Hood were both on the team for Duke. Zach LaVine was not even starting for UCLA, sitting behind guys like Jordan Adams, who's not in the league anymore, and Kyle Anderson, who's still in the league. But, yeah, and Zach LaVine, I'm like, man, this guy's raw, but he's got everything you want in a potential star player, and, he's awesome. He really is. Now, a guy I have on my list, and he's balling out this year. He has made as good of a comeback as I've ever seen in NBA history, and that's Derrick Rose. That's a guy you can really just get behind. I've always loved him.
Rose.
Always loved watching him. He's always been one of my favorite players to watch. I love the fit with the Detroit Pistons. He's going to get buckets as he already has. He's averaging over 20 points per game, not even starting, and averaging over 28 games so far. And I think he actually could keep that up because he averaged close to that with Minnesota, and I think he can have even a bigger role and be even better with the Pistons this year.
Derrick Rose is still breaking dudes' ankles. I forget who it was he dropped the other night.
Everyone's culprit, yep.
Yeah, he's doing that every night at this point. He's just embarrassing guys with his crossover is still so lethal, and you got to appreciate that great crossover. I think Derrick Rose, if I'm not mistaken, he's averaging the most points he's ever averaged since that MVP year that he had. And that just warms my heart. It makes me so happy that Derrick Rose is back to himself. And I heard Dwayne Casey, former coach of the year, who the Raptors should not have fired, in my opinion. He had some of the best things to say about Derrick Rose in terms of giving him the ball at the end of the game, letting Derrick Rose make the decision whether he's going to take that game-winning shot or dish it to somebody else. And I think that's just the ultimate respect from your head coach, especially like a coach like Dwayne Casey.
Yeah, huge confident booster. So, David, wrap it up for us here. Who is number 5 on your list?
Last but not least, we talked about him earlier. If Kyrie Irving is on my TV, I'm switching the channel to him. He is amazing. I don't care what's going on in the headlines about his mood swings or whatever alleged, teammate chemistry stuff is going on. When the lights come on and it's time to play, Kyrie Irving has the best handles and best finishing around the rim I've ever seen. He's got that shot. Dude's a phenomenal shooter. And if the clock is winding down and I need to pass the ball to someone to take that final shot, I might not pick anybody over Kyrie Irving.
Yeah, he's not passing the ball either during those situations either because he's so good. Like you said, I would have 100% had him on my list, but I said no Duke players, so I could not pick him.
That's all right. I picked Kyrie Irving. You couldn't pick any Duke players.
Yeah.
So I had to go with Kyrie on this one. Man, I'm honestly just wondering when his next game is so I can go watch him play and just dance on somebody and just make them fall. Every time I see him do a new move, which is kind of often, to be honest, his moves are so sick, I go outside and try and do the move myself.
Oh, my God, yeah. And those finishes where he, just handles the ball like that, it's insane. I don't know if you've ever seen, but his dad also has ridiculous handles as well.
That's right, yeah. His dad,
a hooper.
Yeah, he must have grown up playing one-on-one against his dad his whole life, and it really shows. Kyrie pulls out a different move out of his bag, as you would say, every single night, and he's able to put up 50-point games like he did last week with this. It's just unbelievable. So I really hope Kyrie keeps it up, and it's going to be really fun watching him the rest of the year without Durant because Kyrie has to do all the scoring for this team.
Yeah, Kyrie's got a big bag of moves, and we got a big get the heck out of here because this is a big episode. This is the longest we've gone, but that is the NBA season. There's so much to talk about. I hope it didn't sound like a drag too much. I hope you listened to the entire thing or even some of it. We respect you either way. That's going to wrap it up here for Ball Don't Lie. Thank you for tuning in. And we will see you next week as well. May have to post earlier because David's got to try to get a job in D.C. But
that's right. No team gets left behind here.
Yeah, and David does not get left behind on the job market. Someone please get this man under your deal. Sign him to a long-term contract, please, or short-term if you're looking that route. But yeah, thank you for tuning in to this edition of Ball Don't Lie, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you for watching our latest edition of Penn State Sports Night. If you're a fan of our content, please be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more clips. Also follow us on Twitter at PSSN TV and on Instagram at PSU Sports Night to keep up with the action. For all my colleagues, we are Penn State Sports Night.